Hi, hi, Edidiong. Hi, everyone. Okay, I think they're still joining, so I'm just going to give everyone like about 5 more minutes for others to join. Then we'll pick up from there. But anyways, how are you doing, Edidiong? How's your day been?
I'm good. I don't know. Today has been, it started out well, but then I'm feeling a bit feverish. But yeah, it's going well generally. It was quite productive in the morning, and it's always
Okay,
great to have productive mornings because it just means that you get a lot more done in the morning.
right. It's important.
Yeah. How has it been for you?
Yeah, I could say the same. I've I've had a lot of things to do this morning and quite productive. And
Cool.
I think this is my signing off for the day.
Oh yeah, it's like 4 p.m. All right, makes
Yeah,
sense.
yeah. So, hello everyone. Let's just get started. Hi Sammy. Hi Fireflies. Dija, you all can introduce yourself in the chat box while we get started right on time because I know that Didi has a lot and a lot of things to tell us. Actually, this is like a question and answer section, so we plan to make it very interactive and fun. So, once again, welcome everybody to our second edition for this year, our second edition of Developer Hour. We bring great folks to talk about their journey, their tech journey, and how they have scaled through their career. So today, and this is the first time we're having a female guest. Yes, today we have Edidiong. Edidiong is an amazing folk. I mean, she's really, really amazing. She has a great profile. Um, she is currently a developer relation at Ambassador Labs, and she has been doing a lot of amazing things that she will be unwrapping for us here this evening. And I want you all to just like sit back and enjoy while Edith Young is nailing everything on the head. So once again, welcome, Didi. Do you like mind to like introduce yourself a bit? Like I,
Sure.
I know you, I know the amazing stuff you've been doing. You're like inspiration to a lot of ladies
Thank you.
starting out their career in tech. I mean, I remembered how much you helped me too while I was like starting out then. And you've been a lot of inspiration. You've been an encourage source of encouragement for a lot of people, and you've done a lot of amazing things for yourself. So, do you mind introducing yourself, telling us a little bit more, probably stuff that we have not seen on social media yet? So, a little bit more about yourself and what you do.
Sure. Thank you for the kind words and for the initial introduction. So my name is Edidiong Asikpo. I fondly go by Didi because I know that generally some people can't always pronounce Edidiong. So you can either call me Edidiong or call me Didi if that's easier for you. I work as a developer advocate at Ambassador Labs, which is a cloud native company centered around trying to create better experiences for people in the cloud native space. And on a more personal level, I generally love writing technical articles, building communities, and just like trying to pay back or like pay forward to the community because I was strongly impacted by the community while starting out in my career, from reading people's articles to watching people's videos to just like learning from them during certain events. And I figured if this thing had created so much impact for me when I was starting, then it only made sense to try to like create that impact for other people as well. Right. So like maybe I'm writing an article, I'm creating a video, and I know that there is a chance that this thing would most likely help, even if it's just one person in the whole entire world. And that genuinely makes me like happier and excited because I know that I also benefited from the same thing initially. So yeah, that's like pretty much who I am and things I love doing career-wise.
Amazing, amazing. Yeah, like I said, I know that you have been like a great source of encouragement and all.
Thank you.
So then how did you like venture into tech, and when did you start your tech career?
Cool. So I would say I officially started a career in tech in like let's say 2017, if I'm not mistaken. So but then the reason why that happened was, I mean, prior to that key event that makes me say I started in 2017, I was still in school. Like I was studying computer science. I don't necessarily tie getting started in tech to my computer science degree. I tied to like an internship I went for in 2017. Of course, if you think about it, I wouldn't have gone for that internship if I wasn't studying computer science. So maybe it makes sense to say, oh, yes, because I started studying computer science generally. But then an interesting thing about that time was that, so I decided to study computer science because there was like some issues with like the initial thing I wanted to study. I wouldn't go into that so we don't spend the whole day. But then in high school, I used to like computer science, right? Like the teacher was like really, really good. She would explain things in a way that was easy to assimilate or just like grasp, right? And then I mean, as a child, just the excitement of being able to like press a computer and then something happens is like, oh my God, I can do this stuff, right? So I was like, okay, hey, let me go and study computer science. And the funny thing was that prior to that time, I didn't know there was a course called computer science. I mean, I knew there was computer engineering, but I didn't know that, oh, there was like computer science was like a separate course from computer engineering. But when I couldn't study like the medicine and surgery that my dad wanted me to anymore, the next option was to try computer science. So I went to school, but then unfortunately, it wasn't as easy as it was in high school for me, right? It's like, I don't know if maybe I became dumb or the lecturers were not explaining it the way I could understand, but it wasn't as easy as anticipated. So it was just like pretty much reading to pass my exams and all those kind of stuff. But then during my internship, that's like, there's something called industrial training in Nigeria. So when you're in your third level in like in the university or college, like most people would call it, you go for an internship in a certain company. So the essence of that stuff is like to make you learn about how things work when you eventually graduate and start working. So I got the opportunity to work with this organization called Start Innovation Hub in Akwa Ibom State. And then in that place, I got the opportunity to like meet other young people, just get involved with the GDG community at the time and see so many people doing interesting and amazing stuff. And then I also got to learn how to develop Android applications. So for me, that was like when I started, because it was, I was obsessed with Facebook at the time, right? And then when I got to build those Android applications, it could have just been like the basics thing, right? But then I'll just be like, okay, if I continue doing this, then it means that someday I may be able to build the next Facebook. And because of that obsession with Facebook and the excitement that I could build a very simple or basic Android application, it just felt like the right thing to like stick with. And I feel like that's how tech is for anybody who is starting. At first, it may seem like you have like a very long way to go, but if you think about the little wins that you have or you've been making in the beginning, like maybe being able to like create a simple HTML page or being able to like create a simple web application or simple Android application and run it on your phone, it's like a huge win, because there was a time where you literally did not have any idea how to do that particular thing. So for me, I just focused on those like awesome moments at the beginning, and I would generally say that's how my tech career started, and that's how it made me get more involved in like communities and trying to be intentional about like sharing knowledge as well.
Wow, wow, amazing, really, really amazing. I know community has done a lot of things for us, for techies, as building up their career. But then while you're talking now, you talked about like going to 100 development, going to just basic software engineering. Um, have you ever like thought that you would be in developers relations, developers advocacy, community building right from start?
I think I'm
Didi, I'm
muted.
muted.
Okay,
Yeah.
yeah, I figured. No, that wasn't the initial plan. And I originally wanted to be an Android developer. I mean, there were like some couple of years or rather months where I just focused on like Android development, right? But then I feel like one interesting thing about tech is the ability to be able to transition to different fields in the tech industry without requiring like so much work. It's not that it's like the easiest thing, but then it's a lot easier because you already have some level of knowledge in tech, right? So it's easy to transition from one place to another. So for me, I've always wanted to be like a core software engineer. But then, like I mentioned, community was like something that was very essential in my career, right? Seeing other people my age, learning things, seeing people share knowledge freely and just like have interactions with other people helped me become like who I am today pretty much, right? So it was like a process of trying to like give back to the community. It's like, okay, hey, I read this particular article when I was trying to learn something and I understood it. If that article did not exist, then it means that I would have probably not understood that stuff, or it would have taken like a longer time for me to eventually understand it. And the way I think about it is there are so many other people across the world who are like looking for that article or looking for that video to finally be able to understand something. So if I can help one of those people, then mission accomplished, right? And so I pretty much started doing like writing technical articles and I'm doing a couple of other things that maybe developer advocates or people in communities are required to do, right? While I was still working as a core software engineer, and the opportunity eventually came to work as a developer advocate. And I'm like, okay, you do all of these things for free, right? You write articles for free, you create content for free, you speak at events for free. So why not do it in a place where they actually pay you to utilize those skills, right? So it's like doing something you've always wanted to do or something you love doing, but then also getting like paid to do that thing. So that's pretty much how I transitioned into DevRel. I did originally decide, or like that wasn't the plan. It's something I love to tell anybody who feels like, oh hey, they've spent maybe like a year or two in web development and they feel like, oh no, I shouldn't move to, let's say, Android development because I would have to start all over again or so, whatever. I'm like, if you were able to learn web development to that point where you're scared of losing it, you can also learn Android development if you give it time. And you should always think about like the opportunities at hand. Are there more Android development opportunities where you are? Or do you feel like you're not really understanding web development as much as you wanted to? Then it's absolutely okay to make that switch whenever you want to. Like there is no, what would I say, like timeline to it, in my opinion.
Yeah. Yeah. Great. Awesome.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So, okay, for this is it, right? For me now as a community manager, looking forward to go fully into developers relations. What
Mm-hmm.
do you think that will be like the major difference between my role right now and developer relations? Because obviously I relate with developers a lot in the community. And what do you think will be like the significant role
Different.
change? Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I do think that community managers and developer advocates have a couple of similarities in their roles, right? But then the peculiar differences for me is that a developer, in addition to a developer advocate being involved with the community, right? The developer advocate also has to like create content to help members of that community understand how to use their product, right? So a community manager is like trying to ensure the community is active, trying to ensure that people feel like comfortable in the right spot, creating, let's say, events like this, creating opportunities where people can come to learn or just like interact with other people. So a developer advocate, on the other hand, is doing a bit of those things, but then is also focused on creating content specifically with helping people understand the company's products, right? So for instance, I could like create an article or create a video or host one-on-one demo sessions where I'm literally working a potential like customer, potential developer out through the technical details of my company's product, right? And then the other part is a developer advocate also has to be involved in creating awareness for that company, and not creating awareness in terms of saying, hey, there is this tool, you should use it, but like being able to like tie it down to like developers, like giving practical examples why other developers should use it. So it's a developer advocate is generally someone who has to have some sort of technical knowledge, right? Because even though you're interacting with the community, you need to like be writing some maybe sample code, creating demos that will require some technical knowledge, or having one-on-one interactions with other software developers to understand your product better. So to me, it's like doing a bit of community, doing a bit of marketing, doing a bit of engineering. That's like what DevRel is in summary.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. Noted. I'll put that in mind for the future. Yeah, great. That's awesome. So now you do technical writing, then you do developers relations. And talking about developer relations now, there's a lot of you creating content, and you write alongside. So how has this writing helped with your current role? Like you've been a technical writer for a very long time. So how is your writing skills helping your current role?
Writing definitely has had like a significant like impact in my career, right? Because like I mentioned, one of the things you have to do as a developer advocate is create content for people. And because I had the opportunity to like start writing before I officially transitioned into developer advocacy, there are certain things I understand about writing now that most people would not, right? So being able to like pass messages effectively to people who are reading my article is like a good thing to have. And then also we run this guest writing program at my company, right, where we have like guest authors who write for us. So one of the benefits of my knowledge of technical writing here again is being able to review those articles and like passing feedback to the authors to enable them to properly explain themselves, or like to share content in various ways. So that's one of the, or rather two of the benefits of having some sort of technical writing knowledge and transitioning into DevRel.
Awesome. That's awesome. Yeah. Okay. Now, like, I want to ask this next question, and the next question is just like, for someone like me that probably just writes, not technically, and we probably have some people that just like write for fun, just content writers. They just write stuff. Like, can they transition into technical writing, or is there like a typical difference between like the technical writing and the content that they're just writing right now?
Yeah, of course, yes, there's a difference between both of them. Like I've always said, technical writing is just a type of writing, just like how there's a content writing, the type of writing as well. So there are differences. So the technical writing aspect has to do with like including technical stuffs while writing those articles, right? So if you're already, and one of the skills required to be a technical writer is the knowledge of writing, as like writing in general. So if you're already into content writing, it means that you have that skill to be able to write. So the next thing would be for you to gain the technical knowledge to then be able to ship out technical content. Because being a technical writer means trying to like pass information or technical information in a way, or like in a flow that people actually understand, right? It's not just maybe creating fictions or like explaining different things. It's trying to help someone achieve a certain thing at the end of the day. So if your technical article is how to use scroll trigger plugin in React, the end goal for anybody reading that article is to be able to use scroll trigger plugin in React. And in order for you to fully explain that thing for someone to understand, it means that you need to be knowledgeable about scroll trigger plugin in React. Of course, it's not something you have to know every single thing about before you start writing the article. I usually think of writing as a process of also learning as well. So you can decide to start writing about something that you really have no clue about, but then at the end of writing that article, you realize that you're a lot more knowledgeable about that subject than you were before you started writing it.
Oh, great, great. That's awesome. Amazing. Yeah, thank you very much, Didi, for answering those questions. So I'm going to move to the next year. So I know that in 2019, if I'm not mistaken, 2019, you worked on this popular video LAN, which is a VLC media player. I know
Oh yeah.
most of us use VLC on our 100, even on iPhone. And it seems to be like the best that anybody can use. Like I remember that at the point I don't use any other player. If it's not VLC, I'm just not watching
I
on my
know
phone.
it's like one of the best. I agree.
Right. So like, and you were able to like work on the documentation through Google Summer of
Google
Docs.
System of Docs, yes.
Yeah, Google Season of Docs, I mean. And can you just tell us a little bit about the program, how you got in, what you did, and the amazing work you did in the program, basically.
Oh, sure, totally. So the Season of Docs program is centered around trying to get technical writers to contribute to open source organizations. So how it generally works is I mean, the process has changed quite a bit right now, but then initially you would like write like a what's the word proposal, right, around the project you want to work on, why you want to work on that project, things you're going to do when if you get accepted, and why you think you're the best person to work on the project. So you work on that, submit it to the organization and Google, and then Google and the organization reviews your proposal and then decides who they want to go with into the program. So like once that gets, if you get accepted, it means that you get to work for that open source organization for about like 3 to 5 months, I think. And then you get paid by Google to do that. So during my time, I got to work with VLC, and I thought it was like absolutely amazing because, like you said, VLC is something that a lot of us have been using since forever. So being able to work with an organization that actually created it was really great.
Amazing. Amazing. Thank you very much. Thank you. So you literally, so if I'm going like on VLC page right now, going to check that documentation, you literally wrote that, right?
Yeah, I mean,
I
they
mean,
did
that's like
have,
a big win.
I mean, they did have some content as well. So most of it was like trying, but most of it was outdated. So it was like trying to ensure it followed through with the current version of VLC. And then most of it was also like creating the entire documentation from scratch. But I just want to put it out there that it wasn't every single thing that I had to build from scratch. I was updating existing ones and then creating some other ones into it.
Amazing. 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 Wow. Okay. Thank you very much. I mean, I feel inspired again. Okay, so let's just say that we know that African tech it has become like a new thing now that it's like we're taking over the world, right? And now being a lady in the tech industry, what difficulty have you faced as regards to your sexual, say like you are a female, say because you're a female, what kind of difficulty have you faced along your journey, building up your career to where you are right now?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like it's just a general thing. Like there's different biases in different industries. For instance, in the medical industry, right, you mostly see females who work as nurses, and then male people who work as nurses are usually looked at in like a certain way, right? They just assume, oh, hey, maybe you should be a doctor. I mean, I wanted to even say male, and I mistakenly almost said a male doctor, which isn't the case, right? Like a male someone who identifies as a male can be a nurse as well, but you mostly see women become nurses, right? So it's like it can be like that in like certain industries, right? So for instance, in tech, there were like mostly men who started the tech industry, and generally you would think of men as people who are like more into like creating stuff, building stuff. It's just how maybe life has been really. And as a woman in tech, it's like trying to get over some of those biases, right? So you could have interactions with people where they just assume that you don't know what you're doing because you're a woman, or you were put into the opportunity to work in a certain company just so they could be, what's that word? Gender inclusive, right? They could have, let's say, women in the organization as well. There are different things like that that come up, but then I think for me, it's trying to like do the work, right? It's like putting the work to do what you can do, right? So nobody ever feels like you are there because you're a woman, like you were just added because you're going to make the team gender inclusive, or you really do not know what you're doing. But then I feel like it's something that happens in a couple of industries, including tech industry. So, I mean, for men who are, yes, trying to be more supportive of the women who are trying to get into the space. And then for women, it's like trying to inform the men to let them know, hey, this is you probably being sexist, or this is you not doing the right thing or making a certain assumption because I am a woman, like trying to like call out those ignorances, because sometimes they may actually not know that what they're doing is wrong. So it's your place to like inform them and let them know that this wasn't a great way to explain something or share their grievances around something. But yeah, that's my thoughts on it.
Cool. That's cool. So yeah, I'm going to like divert a little bit because I know that Lincoln is here, Nicole is here, and he has emailed me some questions he'd love to ask. I am hoping he. And so he asked that what factors should one consider or put in mind as they plan to write their article? How can one plan for their documentation? So that's one of his questions.
Yeah, so I would say that one of the things you need to put in mind is pretty much your goal should always be to ensure that your target audience understand the message you're trying to pass across. So for instance, you're writing an article for beginners, then when you read that article, you want to like assume that you're a beginner and think to yourself, hey, if I was a beginner, would I actually understand what I'm saying, right? Because when you ask yourself those questions, it gives you like more context, right? And you can see what you can improve on, or what needs further explanation, or what needs to be removed completely. So the way I always think about it is your audience is first. Like you need to identify, who are you writing for? Are you writing for a beginner? Are you writing for an intermediate person? Are you writing for an expert? Or are you writing for all of these different target audiences, right? And then after you write this article, try to assume the role of that target audience. If you're writing for an expert, then assume the role of an expert and read the article as an expert. And then that would make you realize or spot out certain places where you did not share the right information or include the right knowledge. And generally that makes your article a lot better, because whosoever your target audience is would absolutely understand what you're trying to say and get the message completely.
Cool.
Yeah.
Nikon is here, I'm sure is getting all the answers. And his second question is, to what extent as an author do I have ownership or copyright over the article I have written or after writing for a company? Or all is now in their hand? I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, it depends, right? So if you're writing for, let's say, Log Rocket or for Ambassador Labs, for instance, you have certain rights to it because your name is what is going to show on the publication, meaning that anybody who comes there know that, oh, hey, even though this stuff is on Ambassador Labs blog, it was published by this person, right? And then you have edit access to that story, meaning that you can go there to like edit something, right? But then on an overall notion, the content now belongs to the company because the company paid you to write that article. It's like you, for instance, now building your company, right? You won't just leave and like take every single thing you've built for your company and go and say, hey, it's my own, I did it. That's not true. Even though you're the one who came up with those ideas, it's the intellectual property of the company, meaning that it belongs to them and not you, right? So it's important to keep that in mind. But if you're writing articles on your own blog or on a dev.to, for instance, it means that the article belongs to you. However, the issue with, sorry, not like it's an issue, but in that case, you're not going to be paid for that article, right? So it's like knowing which of them you want to go with and like how to go about it.
Oh, great. I think I saw women in tech, so I'm sure she's getting all our answers. So she has a couple of questions. So yeah, the third one is that, is it a good idea to use active voice when writing or passive voice?
I would definitely always go for active voice because, I mean, as much as we're writing technical articles, or as much as we expect technical articles to be technical, right? We generally want to make people follow a certain flow. We want them to like start reading this thing and at the end of the day, they're like, okay, I understood what I actually just read, right? So using an active voice just makes you feel like a story. It makes you feel like you're actually talking to them, right? So I'm reading this thing and I'm like, okay, yes, Bami was actually talking to me. I get what she's saying. I really understand this thing now. I mean, there are definitely certain cases where using a passive voice can come in handy, but on a general level, I definitely always recommend trying to use as much active voices as you can in your technical article.
Awesome. Thank you very much for that answer. So the fourth question is, is it technical writing all same whole way through different scenarios, or different depending on the user audience? For example, if I am documenting an API and the user audience is basically a team of engineers to read. This is quite a long one. So basically, these people may understand all the technical terms in the article, but for a case where maybe I'm writing about a new finding, this is to be read by anyone. So is simplicity supposed to be core aspect despite the user audience, and if not, what best way can one adjust on the approach? This is quite a long one. I don't know if you get that, or I should take it again, or probably.
Yeah, I mean, if I understand the person's question, the person is asking, should simplicity always be something you consider when you were writing an article? Like you said, it was a long question. It was kind of confusing. But if the person is here,
he is here or she is here, you can unmute yourself and speak.
Yes, please. That would be very helpful.
Okay. Hi.
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 Well, it's my first time to speak to Bami. I always comment on his tweets on Twitter, that kind of stuff. So yeah, I'm just excited to share this platform with you. So basically, as a developer, of course, sometimes I've not actually gotten into technical writing, but at this point, I'm just at the point where I'm forced to write to document maybe, let's say, that the API that I'm working on, maybe with the team members. So it's the reason why I actually, got interested in this webinar. So with the question, I think the question was like this, sometimes, for example, if I'm writing, let's say I'm on a team, and then maybe on the team, they say that maybe, Bami, you're good at maybe writing, of course. You're going to help us document this API. So literally, the people you are writing for, these are experts at this level, right? Because they're devs, they understand the technical terms, all that kind of stuff. So it's always easier to, for them to understand the content, or like the point you're trying to drive at.
Yeah.
But on the other hand, let's say maybe you've discovered maybe something new, or you were doing some research, and then you came up with something. Yeah. Let's say you wrote a new a framework on that's trending, and then so you love to maybe understand the people who will start using this framework, to understand how it's basically used, how to get along with it. Yeah. So in this sense, it's such like an open space. Yeah, people who are read this document, some of them may be like beginners. You never know where maybe the person is maybe a level of expertise. You cannot estimate that. So for maybe someone who's a beginner may read that article, that document, I mean, and someone who's intermediate, someone who's an expert. So with that, you find that for this person who's actually just getting into this tech industry may find difficult in understanding, yeah, the technicalities. Meanwhile, the person who has been in the industry for some time can easily interpret what's really going on. So my question was, is simplicity maybe supposed to be the core aspect when writing, so that you create that inclusion for everyone to understand? Or maybe like at first you said depending on the user, like the audience you're writing for experts, of course, so, or beginners. So if it's not that, then how can a writer maybe adjust accordingly? I don't know. Yeah.
Okay, I get your question now. So I feel like you've pretty much hinted towards the answer actually. So like I mentioned, there are different sets of audiences, right? And there are times where you're writing for a specific audience. So in the case where you're writing for a team of engineers who have some context around that product already, then it means you have to be as straightforward as possible, right? You don't have to really explain too much because they already get it, right? But then the other scenario is you're not just writing for that engineer, right? You're also writing for a larger set of people, which could be beginners, experts, and intermediates. So in that scenario, you try to keep it simple, like you said, right? You keep it simple enough for a beginner to understand, but then also straightforward enough for an expert to not like have to read through so much information. So how that works is by adding certain pointers in the article, right? So you could write a certain section and then you're like, hey, I'm going to explain this further, but if you already know about this subject matter, then you can skip to the next session. For someone who is a beginner, they could, for someone who is a beginner, yeah, they will read through that part to understand it. But for another person who is actually an intermediate or something, they would skip that session and go to the next session because you already understand the thing you're trying to explain in that case, right? So the general overview is always to make it easier enough for a beginner to understand, especially if you're writing a content that involves a beginner, an expert, or an intermediate person, because the expert has more context, the intermediate has a certain level of context as well, but the beginner has none absolutely. So you have to include an information that would make sense to the beginner. So in a situation like that, the beginner is who comes first before any other target audience.
Okay, I hope your question is answered, Con. Thank you very much for answering that question, Didi. And I think we have one more question to go. All right, from the Sean again. He said, do technical writers work only in tech companies?
Yeah, I would say so, yes. I mean, some technical writers could work for content companies who work with tech companies. That's why it's called technical writing and not fictional writing or, I don't know, some relationship writing. Yeah, so that's, it's like saying the software engineers only create software. Yeah, they could create it for different fields, like maybe a finance field or a health field, right? But then the core thing there is them creating software. So a technical writer would always work to create technical content to help people understand technical things in a simpler and a better way.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. Yeah, I feel like all of these questions are answered already.
Thank you.
I don't know if any other person has a question, you can like drop it in the question and answer box. But in the meantime, again, Didi, thanks for coming. I have, oh, okay. Okay, all right. So In the meantime, I just want to ask, you have been doing a lot of public speaking, you have been dev-rolling as a world. So how does public speaking affect your role as a developer?
Yeah, I mean, public speaking is generally a way to, like, sometimes you don't necessarily have to be talking about your company's products all the time when you're speaking, but then in situations where you talk about your company's product, it can be an excellent way to like spread the message or like pass the message across to people who do not understand or know about your company, right? So you could be speaking at KubeCon or maybe speaking at a certain local event. So you're pretty much letting those people know about a particular product that they most likely never heard about or heard about but do not really understand it technically or in actual context. So it can be a great way to like pass the message across from your company, just like teach certain people, also build your career or your brand. Because in as much as you're trying to push your company's name and all that stuff, you're also trying to like maintain your brand or build a good brand for yourself, right? So sometimes the kind of talks you talk about may not always be centered around your company, but it could just be centered around you, the kind of brand you're trying to build, the kind of brand you're trying to maintain.
Awesome. Cool. So yeah, me as a person, say I am more into community management and more into open source. So I could go around talking about open source and talking about community management.
Absolutely.
Now, how can me talking about my own personal brand affect the output or the input I put into my company? So say you talk about technical writing, you talk about open source, you talk about Kubernetes, talk about cloud native, and in one way or the other, you have mentioned Ambassador Labs like 122 times right now.
Yeah.
So how does like those two things correlate? How do they come together?
Yeah, I mean, it's like you go to certain events, right? Sometimes it may not even just be about, it may just be talking about, let's say, technical writing. And then my company is not a technical writing company, but then I could say that, oh, we have a guest writing program article where we bring technical writers. So it's trying to find a way to just like improve your company as much as you can. Sometimes they may not even be a way, but just saying, hey, I'm a developer advocate and Ambassador Labs, and this is what we do can be sufficient, right? Because chances are the people who are listening to you never knew that company existed, right? So they might bump into it someday, or they might just even go and do a quick Google search to learn about the company and stuff like that. So it's like, you should know that it's not every time as a developer advocate where you have to speak about your company. It's not every speaking engagement that will be centered around your company. Sometimes you just want to speak about something that can help people. It may not be helpful or beneficial to your company, but then it's beneficial to the community. And it's very important to have that balance, right? You shouldn't just be focused on just your company, because I mean, you're going to leave that company at some point, right? You don't just want to tie your identity to just that company. Your goal should be to help the community first, like help the community become better at something they're struggling with, or just help them understand how to be more productive at their work using your company's tools and other tools and programming languages as well.
Amazing. Thank you very much for that answer. That's awesome. Okay. So moving on to the next. What would be your advice to our developers or a lot of developers out there that are like looking at to start their career, and not only start their career, ace their career? Because we've seen that a lot can happen in the space of 2 years. So what would be your advice to, I mean, 2 years is even like long. A lot can happen in the space of 3-6 months. So what would be your advice to developers developers coming up and trying to like ace their career in the tech industry?
Yeah, one thing I would say is like try to put yourself out there. There's like so many jobs, so many opportunities, but then you realize that some people so struggle to get those opportunities, even though they're like super smart people. So putting yourself out there is writing articles, sharing content on Twitter or LinkedIn or whatever social media platform, but trying to let people who get in contact with you know who you are and like the things you do, because when they see certain opportunities, they will want to reach out to you, say, hey, I thought this opportunity is great. Or, I mean, it could just be maybe a CEO reaching out to you to join their company, or someone in the HR team reaching out to you to join their company, right? And they won't be able to do that if they don't know that is what you do, right? Sometimes it could even be your friend who wants to build a website, but they don't know that you're into building websites, so they reach out to somebody else. But if you're consistently talking about things you do and things you're passionate about or interested in, it means that people can link you up to those opportunities, or you become known as a person who is involved in certain things like this in the developer community. And that can be very helpful for your career, very helpful to help you to get a job and just build your personality as well.
Great, awesome. Like you said it all. Like now for my company, we do a lot of like matching developers, especially African developers, with international clients, right?
Oh,
and
fantastic.
we got a lot of people being like, oh, they're not getting matched, they're not getting opportunities. And somehow it's just because probably they are not putting their profile, they're not structuring their profile very well. Because when this client sees the profile, they're going to see the profile first.
Exactly.
What this person embodies, like this is your identity that you are giving out to the public. So thank you very much for that. I will just ask the very, very last, I will say, few questions. What would be your like, I know that, I'm not sure, I know breakfast is national cake, right? And in this tech space, we have a lot of people have been eating a lot of breakfast, like breakfast left, right, center. So what would be your advice to people that are like going through rejection mails right now? Like they are trying to put out for opportunities, they are reaching out for opportunities, but they are not really getting it. And of course, they will feel discouraged. So you tell us how you have handled, if you have had it before, how you have handled it, and your advice to developers going through that.
I would just say you should hang in there, right? It's like rejection doesn't mean that you're terrible or you're not good enough. It just means that you have another opportunity to try again, and there's like another thing out there waiting for you. Most times when you do these interviews and even get rejected, you realize that you learn something from participating in that interview, right? Something that you can now use when you're preparing for the next interview or the next gig. So it's trying to stay positive and just knowing that they're like the smartest people get rejected, to be honest. People that work at Google, people that work at Facebook, they still get rejected by certain companies. And it's not that they are not smart, right? They are, but it could just mean that they're not a good fit for that company, or the company found someone that is a better fit for them. But you are going to be a good fit for another company out there somewhere. So I would just say that you should keep at it. Things, life is unfair. Life is not always like the easiest thing, but then it gets easier. I promise. Like if you continue to do the things you're doing, figure out better ways, like put yourself out there and create more value for yourself, you would definitely get these companies. At some point, they would even be the ones reaching out to you to join their company and not the other way around.
Yeah, we can't wait to get to that part. I mean, the company is okay, right? Okay, that's amazing. Thank you very, very much, Didi. Thanks for your time. Thanks for answering all our questions. And I feel like all questions have been answered, right? So thank you very, very much. Just to wrap up, finally, what's your day-to-day activity is in Ambassador Lab right now?
It usually changes. Like I said, like DevRel is not unlike software engineering where you mostly have to code all of the time. DevRel is quite different. You do different things at certain points, right? So this week could be centered around just writing a content. The next week could be centered around creating a video. And then the other week could just be like testing your products and trying to get more context about what it is. So there's like no static day to day, always changes. So if my week is centered around creating an article, then my day to day would be writing an article, yeah? But if my week is centered around creating a video, my day to day could be writing the script for that video, recording the video, editing the video, implementing the feedback from the team, right? So it changes a lot.
Wow, amazing. Thank you very, very much. But that somehow sounds like a soft life. Like
Sounds like
you
what?
just it sounds like a soft life. You just like,
is it? I don't think it is, because it's like a lot of context switching. Context switching makes you get tired often, right? I mean, if you know that every day you wake up, what you need to do is just code. It's like, okay, fine, let me go and code. But then if you have to code this week, write article this week, like it makes you like there's a fog where it creates in your head that makes you tired. I mean, it's also exciting too, because you get to dabble around in like different things and eventually have a knowledge about certain things, right? So it's just like everything in life, it has its good and bad side.
pros and cons.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. That's amazing. All right. So thank you very much, Didi. Thanks for your time. And thanks to everyone that joined today. Thanks, Adelu. Thanks,
Thank
Adija.
you for having
Thanks,
me.
Follow Expert. Thanks to Clan for all your questions. I hope they were all answered. And thanks, Amin. Thanks, Mifa. And thanks, Jafar. Thank you, everyone, for joining today. It was really, really nice to have you all here. So we are drawing the curtain right here. And thanks very much, Didi, for taking your time to answer all of our questions, both the comfortable and uncomfortable ones. And thank you very, very much.
Right.
Thank you.
Thanks for having me as well.
Yeah. So really nice to have you here today. And yes, like I said, we are drawing the table, the curtain right here. And I'm still your host, Bami, and I'm the community manager for Tunga. I realized I didn't introduce myself at the beginning of this section. But then, here we are. I am the community manager for Tunga, and so you can reach out to me anytime. And I'm sure we'll still be bringing Didi on so many times because she's a lot in one person. Yeah. So yeah.
Thank you so much. It was awesome to be here.
Thank you.
All right. Bye, everyone.
Bye. Do have a lovely day.
You too.
Bye. Bye, everyone.